Hello, everyone. That's all the energy I got for today's show. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Welcome, everybody, to The Life Between All or Nothing with Scott J. and Mary Kay. We're always thrilled to have you guys here with us. And, of course, the beautiful Mary Kay. How are you, darling?
Thank you. I'm okay. I'm all right. I have some stress going on, so this topic is very timely, actually. Yeah. How about you? How have you been?
Well, the same. A lot of stress. Now, you
Yeah.
know, you're also compiling. This is the time of year when most stress really builds up on people. We're going towards holidays.
Yeah.
End of the year. Families are more present than usual. Going into winter months, which can be depressing. Less daylight for people, which is always hard. So,
Yeah.
really getting in towards Christmas time, which should be the most joyous time of the year. And the truth is, we are quite joyful for one day, but the rest of the time we go absolutely freaking bananas. So
You're so right. So
yeah.
I already started my Christmas shopping.
Oh,
right?
okay.
It's just easier to be a little bit prepared.
Yeah, well,
So I'm not rushing.
I shop with this and I send everybody gift cards so they can buy what the hell they want.
Oh, that works.
Trying to figure out what adult children want is like. Now, with my grandkids, I go on, I look for toys, and I find the one toy that probably would have annoyed me most as a parent, and I send it to my grandkids. This is part of our revenge, you know?
Oh my God.
It's like, hey, little Timmy needs a drum set. Yes. But yeah, it's really gift cards and stuff. But yeah, the Christmas shopping, there's that pressure to show up everywhere, to talk to everybody. I got to give a shout out here. My buddy Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
Nice kid from the neighborhood. Great guy. I love him. Lucas, I'll see you tomorrow night because we're doing a DJ. We're dancing tomorrow night, and his birthday's coming up. So happy birthday,
nice.
buddy.
Happy early birthday.
Now,
hi, Ellie.
This is Ellie from the other side of the pond, right?
That's right. From the next day. It's Ellie from November 10th.
It's Ellie from the future.
Ellie from the future.
We got to remember we know somebody from the future before the lottery's played.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Lucas, Ellie, and everybody else out there who might be watching this later. I know not everybody watches it live. People watch it later on and then they comment. Please leave the comments when you do watch it because Mary Kay and I read those and we want to respond and we want to do that. And if you'd like to be on the show, if you got something you want to talk about, this show is all about living your best life and more importantly, living today. Stop waiting for tomorrow to come. Stop worrying about what happened yesterday. Live today and live in what you have today. You could always reach for other things. You could always strive for other things. But if you're not enjoying what you have today, what's the point of any of it? Because we could all wait until the final destination. But then what? Then you've lived your whole life for a moment when you reach the brass ring. Why do that? Make your whole life worthwhile and celebrate when you hit the brass ring, sure. But make the rest of your life worthwhile, or what's the point of it all?
Yeah,
you know, it's like living all year just for Christmas Day, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Because you're right. A lot of people strive for accomplishments, and it's why I'm not a big fan of goals.
Right.
It's more about the steps that you take every day, like celebrate each day instead of that big thing that's far off into the future. Because what you're going to be unhappy until until that someday that's going to come, and maybe it won't come. Like, who knows? Maybe you're not going to get to that thing that you wanted to do.
My friend Debbie Strand has joined us. She said,
Hi,
gotta have gratitude galore. Look for positive things constantly.
Yes.
Debbie could not have said it better. Thank you. Debbie was on my podcast, Sober Life podcast, about 4 weeks ago. She's fantastic. She does more for people in recovery, helping people in recovery in South Florida than most people would even think about doing in a lifetime. She does more of that
Um,
every day. She's fantastic. And if you're reaching out, if you're looking for a place to go, a safe place to start your recovery, a sober living situation, Debbie Strand is the one you want to reach out to. But she's a great, great person. Thank you for joining us. And Karen from Crazy Bad
love it.
Costumes is with us.
Oh,
And
awesome.
Karen, thank you for joining us. Love you as always. You're fantastic. And Ellie's agreeing with us. I want to call him Eli, but it's Ellie. All
No,
right.
it's Ellie. Ellie.
Ellie. Okay. So what we're talking about today with all of that is, what do you do when you're stressed?
Mm-hmm.
What is your go-to, or what do you do, or what suggestions do you have for other people? And I've got some like the top 8 for me that are really, really serious. I'm sorry, top 12. I can't even count. My that's how my day's been.
It's okay. You don't have to count. There's no test.
But I think you really got to pay attention to your stress levels, because if you keep swallowing it and swallowing it and swallowing it, and I'm not sure if you had experience with this, Mary Kay, but you keep ignoring the stress, and then it becomes this big monster that really it's not as easy to put away as it would have been before. It becomes
Yeah.
it really kind of takes over, and you end up doing things that you regret. Am I close to that?
Yeah, like some unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I think, you hit the nail on the head, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I have these tools that I can do when I'm stressed, whatever it might be, like going for a walk or whatever. But it would be better if you were tuned into yourself and recognized the start of that feeling, the start of that stress, instead of waiting until you're stressed and then dealing with that. Because yeah, you might not go for a walk. You may actually go for some unhealthy coping mechanism, which you'll
Yeah.
then have to unwind years later in your life. And I mean, you've experienced that.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing. So I had an article published earlier this week, and it was with a guy named Cliff Howard, and I got to interview him, because he went from full on heroin addict, intravenous heroin addict, to being an entrepreneur. He's a music producer. He does intros and outros for people. Very creative. Actually, you'd love him, Scott. You'd love him. And
I caught a little bit of that, and I want to get. I think we should probably have him on and talk to him.
yeah, we should. We should.
Yeah.
So when at the end of the interview, when I asked Cliff, what is the one thing that he credits to his transformation and to successfully going through that journey from really trauma to triumph. And what he said was, no matter what your coping mechanisms are, like his actually started with prescription pills, until he realized that heroin was a little more economic and about a third of the price of the pills. So that's why he went to that. And then he was patting himself on the back for, well, I'm just snorting it. I'm not injecting it. But of course, it was too late. He was already through that gate and ended up. So what he said was that it's the root of your issues. It's the root of your stress. It's the root of your fears. You got to trace back all those things to as far back as you can and heal them there, right? Heal them from here, but heal them there. And I think the more people can recognize that there is some kind of derivative here, like there's some kind of point of origin for why they're always stressed, for why they're always um, triggered by a certain situation or a certain person or a certain word. And that's where I think the real deep work lies. It's not just in the self-care. And listen, I love self-care. I recently put out a freebie that's 14, self-care ideas for solopreneurs. So I love self-care and I love stress busters. And I do think that the deep work, like I said, and like Cliff Howard had mentioned so eloquently, was we got to get back to that root and those roots of the trauma. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
There's work that's done when you're working, if you work in 12-step work at all, um, that where it's, you kind of, you admit you have problems and some things and you make a decision, you're going to make a change. You do an inventory of yourself and you try to figure out what's broken, what's not broken, what are things I can work on.
right.
But then there's where once you do that inventory, you got to sit and talk with someone. You got to kind of like really look at it now. And just looking at it yourself is not a good idea. You need outside opinion, outside ideas, because, my thinking got me broken. I needed some outside, resources. But
Right.
what it says is we have to admit the exact nature of our wrongs, not the wrongs. My problem wasn't stealing. My
Mm,
problem was figuring out why I felt it necessary to steal. And that's what you're talking about. It's about there's a root
yeah.
cause for all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
If you're always constantly full of fear, well, fear isn't a thing that just comes and gets you. There's a creation of that. There's an anxiety behind that. And what's that anxiety really representing? Is it an insecurity, maybe from childhood, from something, or whatever it might be?
Hmm.
Until you create that, because I could say to you, I'm never going to steal again, but I'm going to spend my whole life white knuckling because I'm going to want to steal because I never dealt with the reason I stole in the first place. And
Right.
the reason I did used to steal in the first place was because I did not feel that I was worthy of or intelligent enough to get things on my own. And the only way I was ever
Yeah.
going to get anything was by taking it from others. And until I repaired that piece of me that didn't believe I was good enough or that I could achieve anything on my own, I always wanted to take from others because I thought that was my only option. And once I discovered I could do it on my own, it was no longer necessary to steal. So
Mm,
dealing with root causes of
yeah.
stress or anxiety or fear or any of those things is it's the only answer. Now, when you de-stress, when we're talking about like relieving stress and stuff, these are temporary reliefs you do so that you can let the pressure off and you can allow
Yeah.
this thing. But there's
Yeah.
still self-discovery to be done beyond this. We're not talking about the deep work today. We're talking about the release of the pressure, the things you could do to be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but don't ignore the fact that, if every day I got to do something to be okay, it's sooner or later I got to say, why do I keep getting myself in a crisis mode where I got to de-escalate?
Yeah.
Why do I do that? And then that's something you need to work on. I suggest you work on it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. A licensed professional, licensed medical professional, therapist.
Right.
I always steer people to a licensed professional because, in fact, I had somebody come to me last year who wanted coaching, and after the first conversation, I
Yeah.
said, I'd be happy to coach you, but first, I'd like you to see a therapist because I think there's some things here that it would be to your benefit to deal with those things first and heal with those things first. And then we can get to coaching and moving forward. Like we've got to use your past um, to move forward, right?
Yeah. If you're stressed about a job, you don't go and talk to somebody who's never done that kind of job before because they have no
Yeah.
idea what the stressors are. You go talk to somebody who's done that job and who has some expertise in that job so that
Yeah.
they could say, oh, I understand all those pieces parts. And it's the same thing when it becomes about the inside of us. It's great to go to your friend Bob and Bob saying, well, just throw back a beer, you're going to feel fine.
Yeah.
That's all
That's
well
right.
and fine, but it's not dealing with those core issues. So not everybody has to
Yeah.
go to
And people,
therapy, but you do need to reach out to people who understand the position you're in. Don't
yeah,
go to the I mean, if we could go to the ignorant masses all day long to get any answer we want. If
I bet
that's
you
what you
do.
want to do, go for it.
Yeah, you're so right. So, okay, so let's talk about what you said you had a list of things
Yeah,
that
you said
you
something to
do.
start though. You said something right at the beginning before we get to the list. You said something. You've got to recognize it's happening. You've got to
Yes.
recognize, before it gets too bad, like when it starts. And
Yeah.
so, not on the list, and this is not a de-stressor. This is just everyday advice. Be present in your life. Don't phone in your days. If you're just phoning it in and just going through the motions and not paying attention to how you're feeling and how your day's going, that stuff will bite you in the ass. And all these little suggestions are not going to help you a bit.
That's so true. So you're right. Tuning into your body,
Yeah.
tuning into your mind, to your thoughts, because I think like we have the power to use our mind instead of our mind using us, right?
Oh,
And when we're
yes.
stressed, it's our mind using us. But we have the power to do it the other way around and have some agency in how we go about our day and our thoughts. And so, and for me, tuning into my mind and my body. So if my heart's racing, yeah, I need to be able to notice it. If my mind is racing, I need to be able to notice that, holy crap, my mind is racing. So for
Yeah.
me, one of the easiest ways to do that, pause. Just pause. Like I notice myself getting a little bit something, just pause and touch. Like I usually touch something physically around me, the table, ground myself because it reminds me that I'm here. I'm not wherever my mind is taking me. I'm right here and I'm safe right now.
Yeah, touching something is tantamount to like pinching yourself and saying, "Okay, I'm really here."
Well, yeah,
Okay,
that too.
this is
Just don't
real.
pinch,
This ain't a dream.
don't pinch too hard.
Okay, so number one, and this is the simplest thing, and you should do this whenever you even are approaching stressful situations. Is take a moment and do this. Is breathe. Now, you shouldn't have to
Yeah.
tell people to breathe, but there are certain ways of breathing that can be very calming, that can activate the vagus nerve, can create a calmness in your body, that can produce calming chemistry in your brain.
Yeah.
And it's the 4-7-8 method. The 4-7-8 method is inhale to the count of 4. So you're inhaling and you're going 1, 2, 3, 4 as you inhale.
Yeah.
And you hold it for 7. For the count of 7,
Yeah.
you hold it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And don't rush it the way I just did. And then you exhale to the count of 8. Exhaling all the way out so that there's nothing left inside. One of the things that happens when you exhale that much, you actually pull your diaphragm down. It takes pressure off your heart. Your heart rate slows a little bit. But it's just a 4-7-8. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And you do that a couple of times. You don't have to turn it into like, I got to go breathe for 38 minutes.
Yeah.
No, it's just a couple of times. If you're about to go into a presentation, if you're about to start a project that you know is going to be stressful, if you're sitting down at your office, you got your coffee, you're about to open your emails, and you know it's going to be a tough day, take those breaths before you start. Why not? Why not put gas in the car before it reaches E, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
So
that's
breathing.
a simple thing. Breathing.
4-7-8. Is that what you
4-7-8.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one.
Count of 4 in, count of 7 hold, count of 8 breathe out. So slowly breathe out, and you can feel it go all the way down as you breathe out. Your diaphragm drops, the pressure in your chest is lightened, and you activate good chemistry in your body. So
I love that. So you mentioned the vagus nerve, like it activates or deactivates. So explain to everyone what is the vagus nerve and what does it do?
The vagus nerve is it's this nervous system in your body. It's part of the nervous system in your body that actually brings the calming chemistry, the serotonin and the calming chemistry into your brain. Okay. Another way you could do it, and this isn't on my list, but this is if you ever have a cold drink or a bottle of water and you start to feel stressed, if you hold it against your pulse, hold it against your pulse, and you hold it there for about a minute, it automatically activates the chemistry in your brain, which calms you. And there's a word in it that's going to come to me in a minute that's going to tell you what chemistry. And I can't think of it right now. But and if somebody knows what it is, please tell me. But but that's a good way to calm yourself. But breathing is life anyway. Breathing is life. if you've ever noticed when you've been fearful, do you ever watch a movie and you've been like really kind of, ooh, what's going to happen? And then you get through the scene and it's like, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I breathed for the last 3 minutes. You're not even sure because you had just, your breath became shorter because you became more anxious. And so the anxiety triggered shortness of breath. The shortness of breath triggered more anxiety and it
Yeah.
builds. So breathing is paramount.
Paramount. Yes. And that the 4-7-8 breathing though, don't do it while driving or walking. I'll tell you why, because there was one day I was doing it while I was walking the dog because I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I'll just multitask, right? Wrong. I got dizzy.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
dizzy.
You can hyperventilate.
So be careful.
Of course, if you fall down and pass out, that's relaxing too. So
Yeah.
I guess that's okay.
Don't do
Now
that.
this one's gonna sound completely silly.
Okay.
But this is really more for those stressful moments that you're walking into. Perhaps a board meeting, perhaps a interview for a job, perhaps a meeting with a principal of your kid's school, where you're just stressing and you just don't want, walking into the IRS office. Okay, those kind of moments in our lives that we just don't want to do. Conversations with doctors about our health or our loved one's health. Those are always stressful. This is going to sound really silly. Strike a power pose before you go.
Oh, I love that. Amy Cuddy.
Strike a what?
Amy Cuddy. She did a TED talk on power posing.
Yes, power pose.
Yeah.
The most famous power
Wonder
pose,
Woman.
probably Wonder Woman, is the most famous power pose. It works for a man or woman. Your legs further out than your shoulders in a powerful stance, a V powerful stance, hands on your hips, head up, chin up. A power stance is not with your head down and your shoulders all like this. That's not a power stance. Shoulders back, head up, and breathe. And hold that pose for a moment.
2 minutes, actually. It's a 2-minute hold.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you feel silly for 2 minutes, just do it. Do it the first time for 30 seconds and then move. You'll feel something. You will. And it might be, I don't suggest you do it in the middle of an elevator when you're crowded with a bunch of people in there saying, okay, everybody step aside. I got a power pose.
I've done it. So I'll tell you, my very first speaking engagement, which came up, the person asked me, I was like, yes. And then I was like, oh my God, I've never done a speaking engagement. So I walk into this area and there was a lobby and then a middle room and then the actual big room with double doors and stuff. So I'm standing out in the lobby area, and as people are coming out of the elevator, I'm standing there like this.
Yeah.
And they're asking me, what am I doing? So I said, you know what? It's going to be part of my talk. It's going to be part of my talk. And I weaved it into my talk.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it sounds so silly, but think about kids. You ever watch a kid play superhero and a little kid will stand up in a room and he'll put his hands on and go, da, 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 da. And you almost see this glow come from the kid of this power that he feels or she feels. And it's like, you know what? We still have those same feelings and those same reactions as adults. We just choose to ignore them.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that. If you're public speaking, I know that's a huge fear, a huge anxiety, a huge stressor for people, public speaking. Definitely make sure you breathe before you go out there. Do the power pose. And when you go out there, this is my own personal suggestion for public speaking. Look them in the eye from the moment you walk in the room. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't walk up to the stage and then expect that your head's just going to pop up and it's going to feel okay. The minute you walk into a room, as you walk in from the side, you're looking at people. And when you look at people, you can always, if you really look, you'll find that one guy or that one girl in the audience that you need.
Yeah.
Who's that? You're the goofy guy with the really big ears that when I need it, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to be okay. And you pick that person for yourself. Don't tell them they're that person.
Yeah.
Hey, you're funny looking. Would you sit up front for me? No, I always do this when I do a class, and I'm not afraid of public speaking, but when I walk into a room, I always identify one, maybe two people that I say, these are my go-tos. That if for
Yeah.
some reason the class or the course that I'm teaching, because I talk for 8 hours, that's 8 hours.
Wow.
And I got to keep
Wow.
them engaged. Well, it's actually probably 6.5 with the breaks and the lunch, but
Still, that's a
6.5
long
hours,
time.
they've got to stay engaged, and I've got to keep high energy. So if I feel engagement dropping off and I know I need a quick check on myself, I make sure I have those points of contact where I can look at that person and say, hey, that's my man Bobby. I don't know what his real name is. It doesn't matter what his name is. In my head, that's Bobby. Bobby's here and Bobby's cool. You know?
Oh, I love it.
Little tricks you could use. But the power pose, absolutely. I'm so glad you knew about that. That's brilliant.
Oh, yeah. For years. Yep. Since
Uh,
2018. Yep.
here's a de-stressor for everybody that you're gonna this is all up your alley. Nature.
Oh,
Stop
yes.
surrounding yourself with brick and plaster and roofs and ceilings and go outside.
Yeah.
Go outside and smell the air, take a walk, look at a tree, look at some water. Just connect something with nature so that you don't feel that you're disconnected from the world. And plus, fresh air is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know
it
this
is.
more
And
than anybody.
it goes with the breathing. And yeah, I love nature. And my plan tomorrow, because I have a day off tomorrow, is to go out and be in nature because I feel a little bit disconnected, and it will bring me back, connection with everything, but also connecting with myself as well. So yeah, I love nature. That's my go-to, and even my backyard. Oh, and I've been feeding squirrels in my backyard, and in the last week, one of them is now taking peanuts from my hand. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, wow. And that's huge.
You froze for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're kind of skipping a little bit too. So we
I
probably
think
got a
you're
little
okay.
interference.
I
We'll
think
just keep
you're okay.
going.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
we'll just keep going.
No, I agree. I agree with you. How many people do you think sit there and work through lunch when they're stressed, or eat lunch at their desk while they continue to work? Take 5 minutes and go outside. I don't care if
Yeah.
I don't care if you work in New York City, downtown in New York City. Go outside and you're smelling exhaust. You're not really smelling the air, but you're exposing yourself to outdoors. You're exposing yourself to sunlight. Oh my God! Sometimes
Yeah.
2 minutes of sunlight is the world. Being outdoors, nature. Get outside for a few minutes. If it's really cold outside, it'll wake you up. If it's really hot outside, it'll feel good when you come back inside into the air conditioning. But
Yeah.
if you're indoors all day, do you ever work so much you forgot you can't even know if somebody asked you what was it like outside, you wouldn't know. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's hot, if it's cold, I don't know. That's a terrible place to be at. If you're not sure what the weather is, you haven't been outside enough.
It's horrible, and it is a ticket to burnout because I've been there fully burnt out once and almost burned out again because I wasn't paying attention. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even know like how much time I had passed as I was doing something. I wouldn't even know, like, oh my God, have I seen my dog in the last couple hours? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. It was really, really bad. And something that we have full control over. Again, going back to that, we have agency over our day. Not all of it, right? You've got stuff that you need to do, but in between those things, you can definitely take a short break.
Absolutely. And you don't want to get yourself into those days where you sit down, it's morning, you start working. Next thing you know, it's the end of the day. You're like, well, that went by like a nothing. And it's like, so basically you're pleased that 8 hours of your life went by without you even noticing that you lived it. As you get older, you start to cherish those 8 hours. So,
absolutely.
So don't try to make your day go by faster. Try to enjoy those parts of your day. And if you're doing a job that you hate so much that you can't think about being there, maybe the real problem is you're not living the right life.
I agree. I agree. And you can do something about it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. All right. Here's another one. Unplug. Every computer says sometimes you got to do a restart, which means shut it down, wait a little while, restart it. Sometimes when something is glitchy, we just unplug it for a little while, plug it back in, and it works. The human body works the same way. Unplug yourself. Turn off your phone. Turn off the noise. Turn off all the stuff around you. Stop looking at your computer screen. Unplug. I don't care if it's for 3 minutes or for an hour. Take that time and unplug yourself.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that these phones that we all carry around.
Yep.
We're constantly checking them, and we're not expecting anything. We just want to look and make sure nothing has happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
Are you expecting a call? You keep looking at your phone. Are you expecting a call? No, I just keep looking. I don't even know why I keep looking. And that's just sad. That's sad.
That's so true.
Good.
So recently I realized that I'm taking the dog for a walk and I'm taking my phone. So I was like, okay, next time I go, I'm not going to take my phone. Do you know how hard that was? Leaving my phone at home. But I keep forcing myself to do it because I want to enjoy the walk. I want to enjoy my dog and watching him enjoy the walk as well. And it's amazing how addicted we've become to these devices. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's a stressor. We're not supposed to be that connected. It's supposed to be a little harder.
No, we're not.
We're supposed to make some effort, right?
Yeah. And you know what? You and I are old enough to remember not having cell phones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to go
I'm
out.
old enough to remember not having a push button phone. I'm old enough to remember
me
that.
too. Yeah, I remember that. But if you were out with your friends, there was no one getting in touch with you. Although I have to say, I was at a club once and the DJ announced Mary and my friend, it was my friend Mercedes. Mary and Mercedes, come to the DJ booth, please. Because someone had tracked us down.
Yeah. Jeez.
And wanted to talk to us. It's so funny.
Well,
but
I know.
yeah, other than that,
when I went to the
we weren't
skating,
accessible.
when I went to the skating rink, the roller skating rink, which is, what I did, growing up in the early 80s. That's where you were. You're going to be at Bill's house, you're at Bill's house. You're at Matt's house, you're at Matt's house. And if you want to say you went to Matt's and Matt says he went to your house and the two of you go somewhere you're not supposed to go, that's what we used to do. And guess what? Most of us made it home alive. It was fine. We didn't need GPS tracking on our children. It's a different world. I know there's dangers out there. I know we're worried about stuff, but we've also made it so that we're not learning responsibility, and we become. There's actually a diagnosed phobia of losing cell phone signal. It is actually in the DSM-4 or DSM-5, whatever it is.
Really?
The DSM. It's no phonophobia.
Are you serious?
Look it up. No phonophobia. No phonophobia means fear of losing signals on your phone and not having service.
Yeah. I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it happening because, the first time I left my phone at home and went for a walk, which was only going to be 20 minutes anyway, there was that pang. There was something. So I could see. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So unplug. It's not going to kill you. As a matter of fact, it would probably be a good habit each day to silence or mute or turn off your phone and even leave it like in a different room from where you are living at the moment. You got up and went to the bathroom. You didn't need to bring your phone. Okay. You could have left the other. Start creating those habits where it's okay to be unplugged. Yeah. And then start to enjoy the silence because we got very little of that these days in our world. Very little silence.
And silence is really valuable. It's part of that. It gives you your ability to tune in with yourself and check in with yourself and be with yourself instead of that constant contact with the outside world.
You are so absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are this person who needs this all the time, there are apps on here. There's an app called Headspace, an app called Calm, an app called I think it's either Smooth or Dare. There's calming apps on here where it might play music and have a little design, and it's meant to relax you and calm you. if you need the electronics, that's how you should use it. Use that. Some of these apps are free. Some of them you got to pay for. Or you could do what I do, is use every one of them until the free trial is over, and then move on to a new one.
Well, so here's another thing that I use my phone for, and you'll love this because it's just part of your nature, is music. So I've got a happy playlist. It's probably got more than 100 songs in it now. And I do use that. But what I do is I use it with my Bluetooth. So set it to go or shuffle or whatever. And then I've got my Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
And then my phone, I can go take it, across the house and leave it over there. So I'm not tempted to, while I'm supposed to be enjoying my music, being on my phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Music is brilliant. Every morning I start my day, I watch the news, drink my first cup of coffee. And then when I turn the news off, and I have my second cup of coffee, and I start getting my clothes ready, get in the shower and clean my beard and do all that. That's when the music comes on. And I sing in the shower. I'm an idiot. I sing in the shower. I
knew you would.
Yeah. But I sing other places too. So I guess that's okay. But I just, music is great. I get in the car, music comes on. I'm at work and I listen to music. It's just, music is, it's a great thing. I like to work. I like to write and read and do those things while music is playing, because the music actually occupies the creative side of my brain, and the logical side of my brain can do the writing. And it kind of like, it works for me. I like working in chaos. Some people can work in silence. If working in silence doesn't work for you, add some music, even just a low background music. I don't suggest death metal. I'm thinking find something that you enjoy. I'll tell you what, some of my favorite music to work to is Fleetwood Mac. Working with Fleetwood Mac playing. I could listen to them all day and do a great job all day. I love it.
Yeah, I do that. So I can't work to music. I shouldn't say that. I can't work to songs that I know, because they're just too familiar. So what I do is, if you go on Spotify or wherever you consume music, they have these lists called reading music, studying music, working music. So I use those, and there's no words.
Instrumental.
And it works, because it's like kind of like white noise for me.
And if you've never tried it, listen to some Native American music.
Yes.
There's Native American flutes and Native American music that is just so incredible. It's almost like you feel like you're listening to the winds across the plains, but musically, and you're listening to a thunderstorm, but it's music. It's not the storm. It's beautiful. Hey, Jeannie's with us tonight. Hey, Jean.
Great. Hey, Jeannie.
Yeah. So that's good. Let me throw another one at you that most people might not know about. Color. Color. Get some colored pencils, get some coloring crayons, get some little markers, get a coloring book, and just sit and color. There is something entirely therapeutic in all of child therapy. Whenever they're working with children in therapy, there's always room for using coloring and drawing as a way of relieving anxiety and stress and calming somebody down. That works into your adulthood too. Sitting and just coloring a picture, something about it. And it's the kind of thing where it's like you fill in a little space. You're like, oh, I don't want it. Well, let me just finish this piece. I don't want it. I'm just going to fit. Next thing you know, you finished a whole painting or a whole picture or a whole coloring page. And it's just so relaxing. I got colored pencils and coloring books that are mine.
Yeah.
If my kids or my grandkids come over, you don't touch them. That's dead. You don't touch those. You don't touch those. You get the blank piece of paper and one crayon. That's what you get.
Oh boy. Mean grandpa.
I'm not that mean. All right, let me tell you a couple others, because we're blasting through time here.
So color, yeah. Okay. Next. Next.
You know what? Watching your favorite show once in a while, just tune things out. Watch your favorite show.
Yeah.
Even better. Well, what's one of your favorite TV shows ever?
Other than Friends, because that's the one that comes to my mind.
All right. Well, Friends. Does
Right?
Friends make this? Does that make you laugh?
Oh, it made me laugh. It made me so because I was watching it when it first came out, and I was around the same age as they were,
Yeah.
and single professional and all that stuff. So it was, yeah, I definitely felt like I was part of the show, really, even though they didn't know me.
So that's a great show because you connect with it and it makes you laugh and it's fun and
Yeah.
it takes you out of yourself for a minute because
Yeah.
there's so much history. Teresa and I did a whole show about this last night.
So I
About Friends.
watched it. I
Oh,
watched
good.
your show last night. I
Thank
didn't
you.
watch it live though because I was working.
Yeah.
I saw it probably about an hour after you finished.
Yeah. We want to
I
do a
went onto
tribute to
YouTube
Matthew Perry,
and
God
watched it.
rest his soul and everything. And
Yeah.
but Friends. But here's the thing. Watch something you like. Don't sit and watch 12 hours of it.
Yeah.
But watch an episode or two and sometimes say, you know what? I'm doing a little mini marathon tonight. I'm going to do a little mini marathon and just have my own little treat. And if that doesn't do it for you, then you go on YouTube and you look up bloopers from your favorite show
Yep.
because that will really get you going. That will really get you. The people that you love watching and to watch them screw up is even more fun. It's just a
Oh yeah.
great way to de-stress. The thing is, find things that bring you humor and make you feel good, and watch those things.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a movie, always my go-to, The Birdcage with Nathan Lane and Robin Williams. One of the funniest movies ever made. I love that movie. If I'm ever down, I put that movie on. I feel better, just like that.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
All right, so that's something you could do. Now here is one that, Mary, I think you'll agree. This is probably the hardest one.
Uh-oh.
Say no.
Oh. Yeah, you know me too well, Scott. You're right. That one is the hardest one for me. Yeah.
I came home one time and Therese says, "You know what? I'm going to break your right arm." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because every time you come home, you volunteered for something else. So I'm going to break your arm so you can't raise your hand anymore and volunteer." Yeah. Sometimes we just need to say no. And in doing that, although it's uncomfortable for many people, especially us who believe we have to overachieve and make everybody happy, saying no empowers us.
Yeah.
It's kind of the power stance of words. It's saying, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't do that. No. And that's it.
And that's it.
That's it. That's it. It doesn't have to be, no, I'm really so sorry. I'll make it up to you. I'll do 12 things for you next week. I'm really, really sorry. No, it's saying, you know what? I'm sorry. I can't do that for you right now. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. And just say no, because I found when I first started to practice that one, I would have an explanation. Like it's no because blah blah blah. Now it's cut off. Someone invites me to do something that I just don't want to do.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry, I can't. That's it.
Gene shared one of my favorite memories of the movie, The Birdcage, and Hank Azaria was the butler, and he's like, I cannot wear shoes because when I wear shoes, I fall down. And he actually put on shoes, and he went to go into the door, and he just went right down on his face. I loved it.
Oh my God. So
saying no, really, really important.
Yeah.
Is there a way to practice that in any way? Or, I mean, that's it's almost like that's the one that takes you by surprise because you don't know when you're going to have to use that.
Yeah. Practice it in front of the mirror. So, write down, like you take a sticky, and I've got tons of those.
Sticky queen.
Take a sticky and write down the typical things that you find yourself saying yes to when you really should be saying no to them. Write those down, put them on your mirror, and every morning just pick one and practice it. So the invitation comes to you and you practice it in front of the mirror. Like
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Rehearse standing up for yourself. How about that?
Yeah.
That's great. So say no. Here's something you could do. If you have a habit of becoming stressed on a regular basis, which a lot of people who get stressed are stressed. Oh, Jean say her birthday is Monday. And she's going to have dinner with Gary and Tammy, friends of ours. That's great.
Oh,
Happy birthday
nice.
in advance, Jenkins.
Happy early birthday.
Happy early birthday. I know when we get a little older, we don't want to rush it, but we're giving it to you a few days early. Just put it in your pocket and then play the show on Monday again.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy birthday.
I was going to say
love
that.
you, Gene. Thank you for always joining us. If you have a habit of becoming stressed a lot, write things down. Journal.
Yes.
You don't have to journal every thought in your head. People sometimes think journal means war and peace every time you put pen to paper. You're not writing Moby Frickin' Dick, okay? You're not writing that book. All you got to do is write down, I'm feeling stressed. This is what's going on. That's what's going on. The reason you want to do that is because if you get stressed off and you look back at that and you say, okay, I'm looking at the last couple of weeks and these things I wrote in here, there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
There's a pattern that might identify maybe that root cause of why you're so stressed or what's going on. But if you don't write it down, we've got these forgetters in us, right, Mary Kay? Where I'm stressed as hell today, but if I'm smiling tomorrow, I forgot all about the stress I experienced today until the next day when it comes up again. Then I'm like, why am I so stressed again? Write it down. See if you can develop, identify patterns, and then do something about those things. What do you think?
I love that one. I love that one. And in fact, you know what I do? I have, so you're going to laugh. I have something I call a weekly worry time slot.
I remember you telling me about this when we first met. Please share. Because this was
if something is going on in my mind, and I could probably pick up some stickies here from today. And I'm just not going to worry about them today. So I capture the worry on a sticky. So that way I don't feel like I've got to hold it in my head. And I plan to look at it on Sunday. So Sunday mornings is usually my worry time slot. Now, by the time I get to Sunday, a lot of times I'm looking at my arrangement of stickies. And sometimes it's 20 stickies. I'm not kidding. Just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But as I look at them, I'm like, I'm not worried about that anymore. I'm not worried about that anymore. I'm not worried about that anymore. And then the ones that are left over, I really look at them and say, okay, is there a solution here? Is there a solution? And maybe I'm just not seeing it yet. And if that's the case, it's like, okay, am I going to work on it today, or am I going to defer it to a different time? Maybe next Sunday. So I love that. That works. It really works for me.
I love that. And if you think about it, if you have one reoccurring thing that keeps coming up.
Yep.
So if you don't want to journal, that's a brilliant idea. Buy a box of stickies or even little index cards if you want or something.
Oh, I got those too.
When you're stressed, of course you do. You can launch a kindergarten in your house with all the stickies and index cards you have. You probably got colored paper too, don't you? Okay.
I do. I do. So many. Yeah, I have color. Yeah. Anyway, we won't get into that.
So write these things down as you're feeling these stresses and you're feeling these things come up, and put them in a box or in a jar or anywhere. Your worry jar, your worry box, your I don't give a shit today, I'll worry about it tomorrow box, whatever you want to call it. And then Sunday morning, I love that. Sit down with your coffee, pull it out. Now, if you pull it out and say, why was I even, if you tear it up and throw it away that easily, I want you to remind yourself, you could have dismissed it that easily on that day as well.
Yep.
And it was simply that you were caught up in it and didn't realize it wasn't worth worrying about. Yeah. So just remind yourself and get that. If you have the same item coming up over and over again, then it's time to start thinking about solutions for that particular problem. But I love that idea. I love that. That's a great way. It's journaling through stickies. I love that.
Yeah.
Here's another thing you could do. Clean your space. People who are stressed, who have anxiety, generally have chaos around them.
Yep.
If it gets chaotic in here, it projects chaos out here. Sometimes we do a little outside in work. If I straighten up out here, it'll feel a little better in here.
Yeah.
And that's actually people have seen ADD kids, people with, not ADD, excuse me, autism.
Autism, yeah.
With autism. And you'll see some kids with autism, they become very organized with stuff around them. All their toys have to be in a line and all this stuff. And one of those things is because of the imbalance in the brain from the autism, and it is an imbalance in the chemistry of the brain. It's almost a need to have things balanced on the outside to create a synergy, a balance that they can live with. Things, if it's imbalanced in here and imbalanced out here, now it becomes no control in your life, nothing.
Yeah.
So if you start to feel a little bit overwhelmed and stressed, turn some music on, turn your freaking phone off, get yourself some Windex and some Pledge, and go to town and do a little cleaning. And
And not the whole house. Not the whole house though, because that can be stressful. So pick a room, pick a table if your table's cluttered, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
No. And it could be, hey, you know what? I think I've always thought about moving that chair over to that side and this table over there. Move the furniture around a little bit. Try a little feng shui therapy. Who knows what happens? Who knows? But cleaning your space, it really makes you feel good. If you're feeling bad, if you're feeling stressed, and you walk by and the dish is full of dirty dish, or the sink is full of dirty dishes, that compounds your stress. But if you're feeling a little bit stressed, you walk through and your kitchen smells clean and it looks clean and it kind of sparkles a little bit. That's why I always tell people, make your bed in the morning. At the end of a day, when you come home and you open your bedroom door or you walk into your bedroom and there's a beautifully made bed, it's like a hug for yourself. It's saying somebody cared about me. And what is even best about that is, you know what? I cared about me enough to do this for me. So at the end of my stressful day, I'm not coming home to a mess. I'm coming home to something nice. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Clean. Two more. We got
two more. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Make a to-do list. Many people get stressed and they get anxiety because they're overwhelmed, but they have not actually sat down to think about or prioritize what they need to get done.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you do that, you might realize, you know what? I'm thinking about eating a whole elephant. All I got to do is take one bite.
Again, stickies. So you can probably see in my corner up there, the stickies that are on my cabinets, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the to-do list for the week. So I just pick one and do that. And then throw it out. So that
you know
works.
What?
Feels good.
Setting priorities does not mean everything goes at number one. That's not setting priorities.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's people that'll do that. They're like, well, what do you have to get done first? I have to do everything. Well, no, that's not an answer. That's not an answer.
And then you do nothing.
Apparently, if you need a number one for you is to lose your shit and panic. How about putting that on your list? Okay. Now you've accomplished that. Let's move on to the next thing. But
I love it.
Don't you do realize sometimes when you write things down, it doesn't look as bad as what's going on up here if we don't look at it and prioritize them.
Yeah.
And sometimes delegate. Ask for help. That's the last piece right there. You make a list, and guess what? If you're overwhelmed, if you need help, if it's a work project and you can't do it alone, that's what coworkers are for. If it's something personal, that's what friends and family are for. Ask for help. I don't know. I spent most of my life being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, me too.
Because one is, I thought if people knew just how weak I was, I would finally just collapse and disappear. I mean, I was really afraid of that because I thought my job on this planet was to fool everybody into thinking I was a real person because I knew I wasn't. And I don't know how to explain the emptiness that I lived with. Where I didn't actually believe that I existed. Whatever I created existed, but I didn't have my own feelings. I didn't have my own thoughts. I didn't have my own feeling. Nothing. I had nothing. And I was afraid people would find that out. And until I actually started asking for help, I didn't realize that I had all those things, the good stuff. I just didn't know it.
Well, I'm so glad you asked for help.
Yeah, well, me too. Was that difficult? I mean, is that hard for women? I mean, men, we have a lot of, we get buried in our pride. Men, I got to be tough. I got to be, but women just as much. You're supposed to be strong for everybody around you as well, emotionally strong. So you can't give up on things, right?
Well, yeah, and for me, being the eldest of 2 children, I was put in charge of my younger brother, um, at a very young age. I was, I think, 8 or 9, and so my parents would leave for work, and then I was in charge. And, yeah, that was a tough one, and that carried through my life,
Yeah.
right? Carried through into my adulthood of being that person that can be in charge of a situation.
Right.
Yeah.
But not having to do it alone. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So
point
doing it
is,
alone? No, I just thought, well, it's my responsibility, so I need to get it done, right? Without asking anybody for help.
I mean, here's where the dichotomy comes in, because on page 1, I was telling you unplug and just be in silence and be alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
But on the last page, I'm telling you, don't do it alone. I think it is, the difference is when you're taking time for yourself to just recharge, make that your private time and enjoy that.
Yeah.
But when you start to get up to your ass and elbows in problems and things that you got to do, grab somebody to help you.
Yeah.
And know that I don't think there's a person on this planet that doesn't have somebody who cares about them. I really don't
Oh,
believe there is. There's somebody out there that cares about you, somebody out there who's willing to help you. And whenever people say, "Oh, nobody cares," and I'm all alone, you're really not. You're not. We just
no,
like to create
you're
that
not.
because it allows us to stay stuck. And sometimes I think that's what we hope to do, is stay stuck and stay in chaos. And some people actually enjoy being a stress-filled mess.
Well, it's familiar, right? So if your body
Right.
knows that feeling, it's familiar, and you know that you're still gonna be alive tomorrow. So you're um uh stuck in this state of stress and no desire to get out of it, because what would that be like? Like that's a scary thought for
Yeah.
some people. Not for me, not for me and not anymore. And you also touched on another thing, reaching out to people. So not just asking them for help, but for that connection. You just need to talk to someone. Maybe it's on the phone, even if it's by text, like even if it's just reach out. So it just puts you in touch with another person in the present moment, in the present moment.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I honestly truly believe that you need to write a book, and it needs to be called
Yeah, me too.
Sticky Note Therapy. I think you could write a whole book
I
on
love it.
how sticky notes changed your life. And
Yeah.
I think it would be a brilliant way. We look at Kellen Ann wrote her book, and she used the grumble of puppies, or the grumble of dogs,
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
the message across. You could use sticky notes to get the message across about living a good life. And I think it would be brilliant.
Oh
I
my
would
god,
buy
that's,
that
you know
book.
what it's gonna be called then? Yep.
What?
It's gonna be called Stick It.
Yes.
Stick it.
Yes.
There
Well,
was some commercial with an old lady doing that. Stick it.
I love it. When life gets hard, stick it. I
Yeah.
like it. Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Oh
That is
boy.
brilliant. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. There's a million things you could do, but none of this works unless you have two things that you do. First, you got to have a desire to feel better. If you don't have a
Yeah.
desire to feel better, none of this matters. And there's people
Mhm.
out there, and really look at yourself and ask yourself, am I staying stuck because I actually enjoy being a mess?
Mm.
Or because it's comfortable, like you said, Mary Kay.
Yeah, comfortable.
Sometimes
Yep.
better the devil we know. I'd rather feel the pain that I already understand than step out into the unknown. I understand that. That's why
Yeah.
people stay in bad relationships, why they stay in
Yeah.
bad jobs, whatever. That's why, somebody like me keeps using, drinking alcohol, even though it was killing me and it was making me sick to drink it. I was sick if I didn't drink it. And
Mm.
it was tearing me apart. But I had no idea what was going to happen if I stopped. And I was
Mm.
afraid of that. And I would rather die hurting than step into something I had no idea what was going to happen, because I didn't have any faith that it was going to be fine. But
Yeah.
but are you willing to feel better? And then two, You have to be aware of what you're doing. You have to be aware of your day, aware of where you're at, aware of what you're doing, how you're acting. Don't just wander through. Pay attention. Be mind. That's what mindfulness is. People always talk about mindfulness, but nobody ever really explains what it means. If you had to explain it, what does it mean in a nutshell?
I would say it's bringing your attention to the present moment right here, right now. Like me touching the table to prove to myself that I'm right here, right now, and not in that worry, that story that I'm making up in my head of the thing that may or may not happen.
Right.
Yeah. So bringing your attention to the present moment. That's it. That's how I would explain it.
And it's the simplest way to put, and it is the most direct way. A lot of people will write, they'll write, 3,000 page books about how to be mindful. How do you be mindful? Open your eyes, open your ears, look where you are, feel where you are, taste where you are, know where you are. Where my ass is right now is the only place I could possibly be. So why would my mind be anywhere but where my ass is? I'm not sure that made sense the way I just said that.
I don't know.
Wherever your ass is sitting, your mind is sitting. So
I love it. Cheers.
Put your mind up your ass and just keep going with your life. That's what we got. It's simple.
Oh my God, that almost came out my nose.
And being present and being here doesn't make your life better, but it allows you to create better life because you can fix situations and deal with things that come up. Just because I'm mindful doesn't mean everything works. It means that when things don't work, I can fix them, as opposed to somebody who's not paying attention and shit's been broken for 6 months and now I'm going to try to fix it, and that's a problem. So don't stress, people. Don't worry. Hey, Bobby McFerrin, the great wisdom teller of our time, said, "Don't worry, be happy." That's where I'm going to go with that. What do you think? Final thought there, Mary Kay.
Final thoughts. I think going back to something I said earlier, use your mind versus letting it use you. You're in charge. It doesn't have to be in charge. You're in charge. So those are my final thoughts.
I love that. Your mind is either going to be a tool to help you live the greatest life you want to live, or your mind will use your meat puppet body as a playground and just tear you apart. Before we leave, next week we have a special guest.
Yes, we have Sarah McCauley. She's a coach, and she's got some crazy experience with family and family stress, and it's going to be the last show before American Thanksgiving. So she's going to come in and help us with part 2 of dealing with holidays and family. So I'm excited.
Fantastic. We'll get the ad out for that right away, folks. So make sure you join us next week for our show. And as always, we want to thank everybody for joining us. And as always, I want to thank the beautiful and just one of the most talented people I've ever worked with, Mary Kay. I want to thank you very much for all that you do and all that you bring into my life just by being my friend. And I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel the same way about you. I appreciate you.
And everyone out there, please remember, do 2 nice things for yourself and 1 nice thing for somebody else today, and you'll never have a bad day. For The Life Between All or Nothing, Scott J and Mary Kay, we're saying take care. We love you. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.